So last year saw the release of a certain animated film. It's pretty obscure, you most likely never heard of it. It's based on this really obscure video game character, and it didn't do super well in the box office. It's called the Super Mario Bros. Movie. Yeah, you definitely never heard of this one. Mario may not be my number one favorite Nintendo franchise, but I can't deny its impact on my life. New Super Mario Bros. Wii was probably the first video game for a major console I ever got into. Even if I was kinda crap at the game and barely made it past World 1, I was pretty obsessed with it, and would always enjoy watching my dad and sister play. And ever since then, I would always follow the Mario franchise with every new release. Mario's had a pretty big impact on my life, so it'd be an understatement to say that I had some concerns for the upcoming animated film. Two major reasons being that Nintendo partnered with Illumination of all companies, and Chris Pratt of all people is voicing the titular plumber in Red. Most likely only being hired because he's popular, not because he'd be a good fit for the character. Seriously, I will never forget watching that direct and being so shocked at that casting. A year after the direct, however, the first two trailers would release, and the movie didn't look that bad. The visuals look nice. It seemed to understand the world of Mario. Well, Nintendo did have a major influence on the film. I'm shocked Jack Black and Keegan-Michael Key actually bothered to change their voices for Toad and Bowser instead of just using their regular voices, much like most celebrities in animated films. Real talk, Jack Black's normal voice coming out of Bowser would have been so weird. I'm so glad he changed his voice. And all the skepticism I and many others had started to fade. I'd see the film when it released last April, and while I did have a good time with the pretty visuals, the music, well, when they weren't using out-of-place 80s songs, Bowser, just Bowser, and especially all the references to the Mario mythos and a couple other Nintendo properties, I did acknowledge that at its core, it was a pretty flawed film with rushed pacing and mostly flat and one-note characters. Despite my feelings toward the movie, that did not stop it from being a huge hit, becoming one of the highest grossing animated films of all time. Only seems natural for Nintendo and Illumination to capitalize on the film's success and expand upon this new Mario film franchise. It seems like they're doing just that. Recently, they announced another film in this world set to release in April of 2026. Whether it's a genuine sequel or spin-off is sort of unknown. And I'm gonna be real here, I'm not that excited for the movie. In fact, I'm not sure if I even want to see it when it comes out. Despite being a longtime Mario fan, I have little to no interest in this upcoming movie. I think the obvious reason why is Illumination. Everyone's already said their piece about this company, and how just about all of their films are extremely mediocre or flat out terrible, with them prioritizing profit over good storytelling. Granted, they have gotten less hate over the years, but that's really not saying much, as the reception to their newer films are more or less the same as usual. I have watched quite a few of their films, but I haven't really seen them in a few years. Now, before anyone starts typing, I know I shouldn't base my opinions on what strangers online have to say, and I should form my own opinions on media. I understand that, but at the same time, for the most part, the general consensus for a piece of media can still genuinely say something about its quality. This also plays into my feelings on the Mario movie. Certain Illumination films have been criticized for barely having any story or theme, as a means to stay as safe and appealing to kids as possible. The Mario movie is no exception. If I'm being honest, the film has kinda gotten worse when I look back upon it. The film story is a painfully paper-thin adventure story. Did you really expect the Spider-Verse level story from a Mario movie? Okay, yes, I'm aware that the Mario games are insanely light on story. And no, I wasn't expecting this movie to be the next Godfather. Nor do I expect every film to be Godfather. I never even watched Godfather. A film story can be simple and still have a character arc or theme. Let me share some examples. The SpongeBob movie has a pretty paper-thin road trip story, with SpongeBob and Patrick retrieving King Neptune's stolen crown. What makes this journey worthwhile is SpongeBob learning that it's okay to indulge in childish things, whilst being a responsible adult at the same time. The Jimmy Neutron movie is another good example. That film is simply about Jimmy rallying the kids of Retroville to save their parents from alien egg people, who want to feed them to their alien chicken god. The story I just mentioned plays into the film's message about respecting your parents. Not the most profound message ever, but hey, it's still pretty important for kids to know. Even Illumination themselves understood the assignment with their first film. In Despicable Me, Gru starts off as a supervillain who has this grand plan to use a shrink ray to steal the moon. The shrink ray is then stolen by a rival villain, so he uses 3 orphan girls to distract the rival villain and get the shrink ray back. At first he finds the girls pretty annoying, but as the film went along, not only would Gru start to genuinely bond with the girls, but they would sort of change him for the better. So yeah, I wouldn't mind a paper-thin story like this if Mario actually learned something by the end of the film, along with an overarching theme. What did he learn? Nothing! He's not completely one-note or anything. We do know some stuff about him, but he just remains the exact same throughout the entire runtime. I did pick up on some message about not giving up, something that is a part of Mario's character in the film, but the film barely delves into that. The other characters are also pretty uninteresting. Luigi doesn't do much. Peach is the generic badass. Toad is just kinda there. Donkey Kong was pretty funny at points, but he's also just kinda there. Bowser's probably like the only standout character. Jack Black fucking carried. But aside from Bowser and a crazy amount of references, the film quite frankly has nothing to offer. I guarantee you, if this film wasn't based on the Mario IP, it was some fresh new IP with the exact same story, not only would it probably have been panned a bit more, but while I'm sure it still would have been somewhat successful, I don't think it would have done anywhere near as well as it did, nor would that many people have cared. Hey, wait a minute. Aren't there 2 other animated films that came out recently that had a similar issue? Yeah, I'm going there. I'm just gonna come right out and say it. I think the Mario movie is genuinely on par with Wish and Kung Fu Panda 4. Not exactly on par, maybe a little better, but all 3 of these films share a similar issue. Wish was a hollow letdown with a paper-thin story, undercooked characters, with the protagonist not learning anything by the end, and the only thing that held the film up were the references to films of Disney's past. Which even then, some of those references were kinda corny and on the nose. Kung Fu Panda 4 also had shit pacing like the Mario movie, something I was gonna mention later, leaving very little time for quiet moments in character development. Not only does Po have to learn the same message from the 3rd movie, but they barely delve into said message. Ping and Lee get this stupid pointless subplot where they have to search for Po, and the 2 new characters, Zhen and Chameleon, are so painfully underdeveloped and uninteresting. I bring these movies up because I was thinking back to them when writing this video, noticed the similar issues they had, and I think that's what ultimately tainted my view of the Mario movie even more. That's not to mention some of the production troubles that were revealed a while back. It was originally a tweet, but I figured it would be pretty hard to find, so I found it off of this video. The thing I'm talking about was this little list thing revealed by someone who worked on the film. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the Mario movie has a pretty big pacing problem. If you've seen the film, I think you picked up on it. They never really stop to establish things or let our characters have a calmer moment, or any development for that matter. That's because Illumination and or Nintendo wanted the film to be under 80 minutes. Leaving the creators to crunch an hour and 45 minutes of story into a measly 80 minutes. It won't be! I guess I do appreciate how Illumination seemingly doesn't treat their employees like doormats, with excessive crunch time and AI. But at the same time, with what I just showed and how their other films are, there has to be at least a little bit of drama behind the scenes, in terms of creative freedom at least. Illumination may seem like a nice place if you just want a decent place to work at, but not that great if you want to make a genuinely good film and not despicable me 70 million. Honestly, despite my newfound distaste for the film, I could sort of see why people were so forgiving towards the film. Well, this is just a theory anyway. As I said, with the film under Illumination's belt and the cast, people were expecting the worst film imaginable. But it didn't end up being the worst film imaginable. It actually had some respect for the source material. Whilst I will agree that the Mario movie isn't the worst thing ever, and I do appreciate it for respecting the games, and I'm sure there was some passion that went into the film, but like I said, take away any and all connections to the Super Mario IP, this film is nothing more than a bland, bare bones, and safe kids film. Without the Mario IP, it is nothing! All of this goes back to why I'm not excited for the new film. With it still being under Illumination, and with the behind the scenes issues of the previous film, what if this new film is just more of the same? What if it's just another dull story with flat characters that has references as its only real benefit? Maybe I'll be proven wrong. Maybe the creators want to listen to some of the complaints of the first film, and this movie will have some actual story and character substance. They're saying the film has already started animation, but maybe they'll make time for story updates? The film will be out until 2026 after all. Even then, if they really want to make some story changes, I'm sure they'll have no problem with delaying it. I'm hoping to be proven wrong, but at the same time, I'm still pretty damn skeptical. Over the past few years, I learned I shouldn't trust a film or give it a pass just because it's based on something I like. Using beloved IP has become a pretty infamous tactic in Hollywood. Why put effort into a film or show when people are going to watch it anyway, because of the big IP it's attached to? That's why I've become on the fence about seeing certain films in theaters, waiting for reviews to see if it's worth my time and money. I may have seen The Marvels in theaters, but I didn't really go opening day. You can thank my general lack of excitement for the film, and lackluster reception for that. Yeah, even as someone who's been defending the current MCU, and who's still confident they'll improve in the next few years, I've been a little more selective of what I want to watch out of the franchise. Part of me actually thought about seeing Kung Fu Panda 4 in theaters, but its reception made me wait until the digital release, where I spent more money than I probably would have if I watched it in theaters. But on a more positive note, I wasn't sold on Inside Out 2. Not just with the general reception of Pixar sequels, but from the trailer it looked like it was just going to be a repeat of the first film. The good word of mouth is what encouraged me to see the film. And yeah, I ended up really liking it. So yeah, if you're still unironically hyped for the upcoming Mario movie, that's fine. I'm not trying to ruin anyone's excitement. I'm just trying to offer a new perspective. Unless Illumination actually starts caring about the art of film and allowing their creatives to make movies that are above a 7 out of 10, I don't think I'll be watching any of their upcoming films anytime soon. And the same applies to any of the Mario films. And it's a shame too, because I'm a Mario fan, and I would really like to see a genuinely good Mario franchise. But if this franchise is just going to be nothing more than references, with little to no story or character substance, then I just have no reason to care about this franchise. Before I end the video, there's one more thing I want to say. Nintendo, whatever you do, Please, please, please keep the Metroid, Punch-Out, and Pikmin franchises as far away from Illumination as possible. Thank you. Now back to my next Power Rangers video.